What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Your Story. This is the first step at our Atlanta trip, and we couldn't be more honored to start it off with AJ from North Atlanta Customs out in Gainesville, Georgia. We are in a busy street behind us, so you will hear some cars going by and some airplanes going over top, but we're going to have a great conversation because AJ has done a lot in his life, 26 years old, right? And 26 years old he is. So before we start it off, why don't you tell us about this wonderful energy drink that we're about to drink on this Your Story?
There's nothing special to it. It's honestly just, everybody has like that one drink. I don't know. I found this one, so now I drink it every day when I go to work or something.
Yeah, that's right. The last time I had an energy drink was with Gabe when we were at his Your Story. So yeah that one turned out pretty good.
I can't do the monster stuff, but this is like, supposed to be a healthy one. So
yeah, we'll try it out. Well, cheers, brother.
If you like peaches, you're Georgia, so you gotta have the peaches.
Georgia peach. There it is. Cheers. So, AJ, give us a little backstory on yourself. Where you came from. We're gonna have to get into your rodeo life too, because obviously that seems to be a talk over the last 48 hours. But give us a little bit of your story about growing up.
So pretty simple. I mean, I grew up in a small town here. It's this pretty small town area around here. Born on a farm, and then ever since then, it kind of involved my life for a long time. And so born on a small town farm, and basically grew up a chicken farmer for a couple of years, and then finally my dad decided that was enough, and he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to miss time with the family anymore, so he sold the farm and everything and moved up, just kind of stayed in the same area. Progressively just kind of over the years was into a couple things, and going through school we did a lot of racing, raced motorcycles, and then of course we got into the rodeo mess and things along that line. But the whole time we were doing it, I was always had a love for cars and trucks, and even when I was a little kid, that was my dad's thing. We'd be going down the road, and he'd be, "What's that truck? What's that truck?" So that's kind of how we got, I guess, more my love started, I guess you could say, for it, and went down to, progressed on, and got into school, got my first vehicle, and we kind of talked about that a little bit. So got it.
What was it?
That's that 01 2500 Dodge 6-speed, and my dad handed me the keys that I thought had a motor in it, and come to find out, handed the title and everything over, and got to it and go to open the door up, and come to find out there was no motor, no transmission, no seats. So that was his life lesson to me, was if you want to work for something in life, you got to earn it. And started off with nothing, so we just like we did. So he went and found a motor, went and found a transmission, went and bought seats, got it running. And that was my first vehicle. So I was actually kind of late. Everybody was getting brand new cars when they're 16 years old, and here I am with a truck at 16 with no motor, no transmission, no nothing. So it's kind of like, start from nothing.
Is that what you had to learn how to drive on too?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah. So it was pretty cool. But luckily my dad, when I was like 5, my dad bought me my first truck, old C10, and we lived on a farm.
When you were 5?
Yeah, 5. First truck when I was 5, 85 C10.
Wow. And
he, obviously gave it to me, and that's where I learned to drive in, I guess you could say, is I'd sit in his lap and go down dirt roads on our farm and just learn how to drive that way, and paid off, because once I got behind the wheel of something, it just like never ended. We were just constantly four-wheelers and everything, and cars, trucks, whatever we can get behind, and we were allowed to drive down the road. That's what we did. So that kind of rabbled on to growing up a little bit more and getting into middle school, high school, played a little bit of sports, but really was mainly involved in like motocross, and then
kind of racing motocross.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, raced motocross for a couple years. Did that, just it was kind of a fun thing. Then started, my dad actually, my dumb decision, he gave me the decision. He's like, you got 2 choices. You can either play baseball or you can race motocross. I was like, oh yeah, absolutely, I'm racing motocross. So looking back on it, it's probably the worst decision I ever made, but it's all right. So going down the line a little bit more, when I got into high school, so freshman, sophomore year, still doing a little bit of sports, still doing a bit of racing, then moving along the line, get on down, and that's when I started rodeo. And the reason being was because I had, my first job was obviously worked on a farm breaking horses for a guy. And like we talked about a little bit in the past 48 hours, it was crazy, just because I thought I was doing something. I was like, man, I got my first job. Oh yeah, I'm like, so got my first job, made $100 a week. Thought I was killing it. Couldn't even get enough fuel to put in my truck. But man,
were you staying on the farm too?
No, not this one. I was just I was still driving back and forth to school, so I would stay with my mom. And then my parents were obviously divorced when I was little, so separated family. But my mom did a great job raising me. She gave everything up to make sure that I was taken care of and put in where I needed to be. She made sure I had clothes on my back and food on the table, and that's all I could ever ask for. So, and I learned a lot of, believe it or not, I learned a lot of my detail stuff from my mom, because she literally would wash her car. She still to this day washes her car 3 times a week, and it, like, I swear you could open the door and it's spotless. And there's not a crumb on the floor.
Wow.
Yeah, she still washes her car 3 times a week. So we laugh because she always wants to come over. She's like, "Can y'all wash my car?" And we're like, "It's fine. There's nothing. You just washed it yesterday. It's okay. I promise." So going on a little bit more, and that's when I got my first job. I learned, get into horses, and that was a totally different ball game, from where we're at now.
And how old are you then?
17,
Okay.
17, 18, going into 18, junior and sophomore year. I'm sorry, junior, senior year.
So you already built your truck, or got it?
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say build it. You put it together.
Yeah, put it together and drove it. So
Yeah.
then once we got there, I did that for about a year. And then during that time is actually when both my mom and my dad ended up getting sick with cancer. And during that time, I learned a lot, just kind of really just, it was a weird time, man. You go through high school, you're trying to find yourself, you're trying to fit in with people, and then you got some people that don't have anything going on at the house. And then it was just like one of the weird situations, you're trying to work. I feel like I was trying to support myself. Mom already had enough going on with being a single mother and trying to just take care of me going through school, which can be hard. It's tough life out there with just going through high school. It's weird now. A lot of people it's just tough on kids. So it didn't stop me by any means. Never stopped me for anything. But when it was kind of weird. So my mom got sick first. She had terminal cancer that basically, she still has it, but she basically monitors it now, and it's monitored monthly.
Wow.
Goes for scans just to make sure, but she's obviously in remission kind of at this point. And but she went through a spell there for about 3 to 4 years where it was constantly surgeries. So I spent a lot of time when I was in my high school years of just in and out of the hospital with her, picking her up from doctor's appointments and stuff like that, which I say that to just all go back to during that time, the motorsports industry is what I found a passion for. I just found a love for it to where, it was something meaningful to me to have something I had pride in, my truck, old truck, wasn't nothing crazy, but, it was special to me. And washed it and just took care of it, did
Threw
wheels.
a couple bikes in the back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wheels, tires, stuff like that, and enjoyed it. And, we obviously would go to car shows and big diesel truck shows, and that was where you started meeting the people that had some same interest with you and kind of just went along the lines of what they thought, working with you and stuff. So during that realm of things, found out my dad was sick, which was super of a mind-blowing to me because I just didn't think it would happen, Get a phone call from my dad, calls for a family meeting, which he never does, so he's pretty self-independent. He never does that kind of stuff. So
You have siblings?
I have one brother, half-brother, out of Atlanta, and he does very well for himself. He works down there at IBM, so he's very well for himself, and his wife, they're expecting also. But so that kind of goes on and calls for a family meeting, and like I said, didn't know what was going on, come to the house, and he says, doctor tells me he has 6 to 8 months to live. So it kind of threw us for a loop again, I'm like, damn, and this time I say this more than anything because faith, family, and fire and business is kind of where my mindset is now. But so my faith was obviously questioned at that point, I'm kind of going through this, I knew God, knew what I was looking to do, and thought I had a good relationship, but in that whole time I was kind of questioning myself, and now I look back on it, I was being so selfish compared to what people go through daily. I'm asking myself, why me? I'm this poor kid coming to school up here in these richer part of town and drive an old truck, can't hardly put enough fuel in it to go to work, and here I am, both parents sick, and now my parents are probably going to die, so it's just kind of really just a tough time. I wouldn't necessarily say depressing, it's just tough, it's just weird times. So come to find out, my dad, we started that journey with him. He goes for a couple doctor's appointments, and then down the line, we go for a regular doctor appointment one day, and keep in mind, we've already made the decision that, my dad's not going to make it 6 months. So we get down the they and we just so happen to go to a doctor's appointment one day in Atlanta, and doctor comes walking in, he's like, yep, we're going to take it out. And he found a tumor on him, and he's like, we're going to take it out. So they obviously said multiple times it was inoperable, that we couldn't do it. So by the grace of God, something happened. Somebody made the switch to say we can do this, and they did. They went in surgery for 12 hours, got it out, and
It was basically life or death.
yeah,
No matter what,
exactly.
right?
And I didn't understand that at the time. I just thought this was normal routine, and I guess that's what it was tough for me because I look back on it now, I was like, man, that really was like some stuff that I didn't even realize what was going on. So long story short, on that side of it, he did great. Came out of surgery, everything was good, and my dad's in remission. He has no issues now, so he's good to go. So he's just old man kicking. We call him Old Man Rivers because he lives up on a river, and that's his thing. He wants to be on the river in his cabin, so call him Old Man Rivers. But but during that time, I met some very, very influential people in my life. So that is where my life story kind of changed a little bit. And
were you reaching out to people for help in these situations? Or just
actually, what kind of happened was I was working for one guy breaking those horses, and then I kind of met some other people through that industry, and a local family that owned businesses in Gainesville and had a farm and had horses said, I'd like to pay you extra to come work my horses. So it was kind of a side gig to make extra money. Started off working on his horses and stuff like that, and then offered me a job at their salvage yard down here in Gainesville. So I go to work there, and this time I'm like, oh man, I finally got a real paycheck. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm good now. I can fill my truck up, so we can go cruise Friday night. So I start doing that, and it was kind of interesting because basically these were all wrecked cars. So they're all wrecked, and the guy that I was working for, his name's Casey, and his wife's name's Mandy, and little did I know what kind of effect they were going to have on my life at this time. I was literally just a grunt employee for them. I swept the floors, took the trash, cleaned cars up, just did grunt work. And so during that period of time when I was working on them, he would buy cars out of this auction. And we'd pull them in the shop, and that was my job, clean them up, pull them out, disassemble them. They'd paint them. We'd put them back together and put wheels and tires on them. And I was just like, I was loving it. Like, it was the best thing ever. I'm like, man, we're taking these wrecked cars and making them into something, And I had a bunch of older guys there that detailed old school methods, like, old rotary wheel pad, just like straight cut and buff, like compound everywhere. They didn't care. They were like, yeah, it's good to go.
Shine it up,
yeah,
get it out.
Get it out the door. Yep. So, it's got a salvage title. It's cool. So, but no, they had some good methods too. So it worked out. But anyway, so that's kind of where I learned how to detail at that start of time. It was pretty funny because there was another detailer that actually worked for him. And I would get there and go to school and then go there and work. And then he would hire this guy to come over there. And like when I started detailing and started getting better, he finally just was like, hey, man, I got my own guy now. I don't need you to come over here. So I just thought that was kind of crazy. I was like, man, he must put a little bit of trust into me, So that's kind of how it went down the road. And then ever since then, that family, during that whole time when my parents were sick, because I had transitioned into working for them when my parents were sick, that whole time, they, little did I know they were completely taking me under their wing. I just thought I was, working for them. But the whole time they were watching out for me. They gave me opportunities. I ended up selling my first truck that I ever built, made money, and I was like, oh, I can do this again. So we did the same thing. I bought a truck out of the auction, needed a cab. It had been rolled and stuff like that. So he helped me put it together, obviously gave me some funds to help me, and then I had to work it back off to pay him. And so that was one thing I could say, that was the biggest thing, is nothing that he ever gave me was ever free. And that was, no matter what the status was, I always knew in my head that like I had to work back for it. So luckily made it happen, believe it or not. Just to pay some bills, my dad had actually, my real father had actually like pawned the title to my truck, my first truck. So when I went to sell it, I didn't have a title, didn't understand it. Well, when I sold it, I took the money that I had made to go pay the title off to get my title back so I could sell the truck. Luckily, I had enough money to buy another truck, so started down that road, and that's how I started my addiction of building cars, selling cars, things like that, just getting involved in the whole motorsports industry.
The addiction's real.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. I think it's worse now than it ever has been, but it's definitely bad.
I mean, you rolled up with 2 cars since we've been here, so.
Yeah, exactly. But like I said, when I started working for them, and as the years went on, they owned several different companies. So at the end of my time there, when I was actually ended up living with them, just because I was still in school and I was actually getting started in the fire service later on, about 18, 19 years old, going to school for that. And they actually let me live in their basement for free. And my rent was to cut the grass. And obviously, they had like 5 acres to cut grass, so it took me 3 days to cut the grass. But it's all right. So it was worth every penny. So I would cut the grass, wash their cars, so where I could, rent a basement free. I'm 18 years old. I'm living in their basement. Beautiful place. So it was awesome. I was living it up. I had my own place, as you call it. And,
yep.
But they always, cracked me up because I'd always come home and they were still acting like my mom and dad. They were like, where you been? What you doing? My real mom had been in the hospital for surgery or something like that. And I guess that's where I really kick myself now, because I really did a lot of things as far as not paying attention to what I should have been at that time. I was so worried about being somebody and doing something that really I should have been focused more on family. And that's why my family life now is so much more important to me than anything.
Yeah.
So even them in today's world now is, to me, is more than anything, because that family, the lessons that they taught me, how to work, how to run a company, And that's really where I ended up in their company. I ended up running some of their operations for 5 or 6 years, running heavy equipment and farming and things like that. And at the end of the day, it was just funny. I started off sweeping floors, and at the end of the day, I was running their multi-million-dollar company at 18 years old, and they were just handing me the reins. I'd go travel and go do things for them and customer relations and things like that. So it was definitely where I could say I picked up a lot of business knowledge from on how I felt like an operation maybe should be ran or what I didn't and didn't like.
Have you ever asked them why they took you in?
I really don't know. I wish it's funny, I should probably do that because we're still so close now. They're actually my son's godparents, so now they're like, we still see them every week. We go to their house. We have family dinner with them still. So it's like, to answer your question, I don't know. It's kind of one of them things. It's just I'd get in the truck and wouldn't ask any questions. I'd just go to work, and that may have been it. I don't know.
Do they have kids?
Yes. So they have 2 boys, and they're obviously grown up now. One of them has their driver's license. The other one's playing sports. So they're like my little brothers. So we go see them play sports. We go to their events, their school events, and we actually did their son's first truck and things like that. So it's like we're still heavily involved with them. But even today, I call them every day for business advice, talk to them, what do you think I should do about this? And even when we started with this, what do you think I should do? Am I wrong for even thinking that? Or what am I doing wrong? And I still get my good ass chewings here and there, for something that I may or may not have done. You're stupid. Why'd you do that? And that means more than anything, because that to me is holding people accountable for their actions or being where they're at in that role. And I think my biggest thing is you can lead from any role in any position where you're at. And I guess maybe that answers that question a little bit. Maybe they saw some leadership opportunities for them to maybe pick up. Just because I was sweeping floors doesn't mean I couldn't run a piece of equipment for them or something. So, and that's kind of what I try to preach here is, just because my name's on a piece of paper here, whatever, I don't care. I sweep the floors here. We mop the floors together. We take the trash together. We're as a team, and nobody here has a level of anything. We're all the same playing field here. Somebody may have more customer relationship than the other, but at the end of the day, we all have to get together and get it done. So that's kind of where my business mindset really started when I started back here, was really trying to apply things that I had learned. But to end kind of on that kind of spot where I was at was I always wanted to be a firefighter since I was little. I never forget, like when I was little, my dad, back in the day, when you used to see a fire truck or ambulance go by, it was always
gosh, it's awesome.
Something's bad happened, So my dad would actually get in the truck and chase after him. Just to see. And I'll never forget, we'd pull up on the nastiest stuff, man. You pull up on bad car wrecks and motorcycle wrecks. And back in, early 2000s, these were really still bad things. Nowadays, 911's a little different. But so it's just crazy. So that's kind of where my love for fire service came about. And
you were young when you got into the service.
Yeah, so I was straight out of high school, 18 years old. I went to technical college for 2 years, got a degree in just fire science stuff, and then got my advanced medical service stuff.
Was that always your goal, to become a fireman?
To be honest with you, no. To be a fireman, yes, but actually once I started applying to the fire service and figuring out what it was about, didn't know a thing about it. So learned a lot of things. So I actually went to EMT school first. That's where Robert here, that's where we met. We went to EMT school, got our certifications so basically we can treat medically too. And that's actually required in the fire service now. So then we were able to kind of put our job applications in somewhere, and we ended up getting hired here in Hall County, which is a very large department in the state. It's like the 6th or 7th largest here in the state, 300 something guys. And man, that is by far the greatest experience I've ever had.
What's that?
Just opening up and being a part of something that you never knew you could love so much. And being a part of a brotherhood, being a part of a team, that at the end of the day, everybody's goal is to make sure that we go home. And never understood that when you get into it. Some people find it in maybe sports with a football team or baseball, but for us, it was it was life and death for people. We were able to respond to different emergencies and things like that, and just mind blown at the knowledge that some of these blue collar guys have that probably never gets noticed, with other than within the fire service. And just some of the most good-hearted, downright working people I've ever been a part of. Would give anything to train you, to make sure that you're taken care of, to teach you things, to make sure that you get to go home at the end of the day. And that's really where my family, fire, and everything came about. It's really emotional to think about the guys that have impacted our lives and kind of really taken a piece of it and just really invested in you. And so saying that, it was kind of where I got my thoughts of investing in people, and because people invested in me.
Yeah.
And just to think about where maybe I wouldn't have been without these people that were involved with me, and just really put forth the effort to make sure that we were taken care of. And so I spent about 6 years there, and I recently just left about 2 years ago and went to another city department just for future of longevity versus just different things for retirements and things like that. And I hate to put a number on it because you really can't put a number on what that place means to me. But just for my family's future, I wanted to make sure they were taken care of. And the only reason really it caused an issue was our time here. So started actually mobile. Me and that guy over there started mobile in the back of a van, and he was working the same shift. We rode the same truck together, and I was like, hey man, you want to help me clean some cars? So I got my first mobile van because I kind of, when I was working for the family that owned the businesses, my time just got really messed up. It was just by the time I would go work at the fire department and then go work for them, my schedule was all jacked up. So I finally just made a decision. I was like, hey, I'm going to go do this full time, and then obviously I'm just going to figure something else on the side, which at the end of the day, it was a hard decision for me to make because I was leaving something that had taken care of me for so long. And
were you still living with them
yeah,
at the time?
Yeah, and it was, and obviously they were fully in support of it. So I just had to approach them and say, hey, this is what I'm wanting to do. And this time, me and my wife had just met and started dating. So she had a place up here in Dahlonega. So obviously I was hanging out up there at night and probably not coming home as many nights as I should have been. But so that's when we met, and then. Long story short, it kind of got into it a little bit more and got my first van. I had been detailing on the side at like my dad's house and stuff, and then I would just kind of saved up enough money. I was like, I'm going to get a van, get some new equipment, make it really nice. So I actually bought a U-Haul box truck, probably the most worst.
Like 400,000 miles piece?
Oh, it was so bad, man. It was like, I thought it was great. It was actually like, it was a it box though. It was like a 16-foot box. It was massive. So you can imagine.
Did it still have the U-Haul on the side?
Oh yeah, so you could see it. We actually wrapped over it, but still you could still see U-Haul, and it's like see the world, So it's like,
yeah.
But so we're going. We start cleaning cars out of it. And man, it was a pretty cool setup because we would go and it was perfect. We roll up the door, had everything stacked on shelves, But at that time, I was actually AJ's performance detail, and just basically took what knowledge that I had little of just washing cars and put it into play for mobile stuff. And then that kind of introduced me into the detail industry, and that's where a lot of things started changing for us. But during that time, me and my wife had just got together, started dating, so it was good. I was working 24 hours, and then we'd get off 24-hour shift and really be up all night. So you'd be up all night running calls. We were dog tired, so we'd go get in our little mobile truck, leave from the fire station, then go out and do like 8 or 10 cars. And man, you just talk about whoop by the end of the day, dude. It's like,
jeez.
It's awesome. I mean, it was great. I mean, I still love going mobile jobs now, but it's just funny because it's just like, man, we were just trying to cram so many cars. We were literally doing like 10 to 12 cars someday, just trying to hammer them out. So
after a 24-hour shift.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. But it was awesome. I mean, like, you were so amped up when you were at work. Like, man, we had such a good time. It's literally like going to your best friend's house and you're hanging out with 10 of the same guys, and basically you run calls together, you work out together, you eat together. So, the brotherhood of being at the station, you don't even think about being tired. And even to this day, like, it's the best times ever when you go on calls and you learn together and stuff like that. It's irreplaceable for what you learn and things that you don't know that you learn. But I guess, you see people at all different walks of life, so you see things that probably you don't want to see, then you see the best things in life, So, but it was cool because we got off and then we'd go work, and we were always tired, and, we were training and trying to get stuff done, just dog tired. But then we did that for a good 2 years of just being mobile. And then finally this place here actually kind of came about just indirectly through some other people we were working with, and one guy was doing boats here, and then we kind of teamed up and started doing some stuff together, and then that's how we ended up with this building. And to be honest with you, when I pulled up here for the first time, I never would have thought I'd have ever even got this place. I was just like, the building came for lease, pulled up here, look at this place, I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, I do like mobile washes, like how am I going to get people to bring cars here, So that's kind of how we ended up here. And then literally, I'll never forget the first week we were here, the floors were fresh painted, everything was done really nice, really good. And we had one Jeep. We did one Jeep right here, and it was
a nice place.
Yeah, the only client. It was like sitting like right there. It was like the only client we had.
You guys can't see it, by the way. This is 8,000 square foot, right? 8,000. It's huge. Yeah,
So,
we've probably got 20 cars in here now.
Yeah. So we did one Jeep, and I just never forget it because my biggest thing was overhead. Everybody's always like, in business, keep your overhead low, keep your overhead low. Well, with growth comes more overhead, so it's kind of hard to fight that sometimes. Well, I just never forget it because I remember that one job paid for 1 month's lease here. I didn't do a single car after that. It was one Jeep that we did. I was like, this is going to be tough. So, as you can imagine, walking in an 8,000 square foot building, you're like, looking at it, you're like, I don't know what to do now. Yep. So, that's when that started, that whole realm of trying to get more cars in here. But we had actually been doing coatings mobily. We'd go to, a climate control facility at their house and do it in their garage or something, I'll never forget, I was talking to Robert one day, and we were just talking. I was like, man, if we could ever do like a bunch of these a month, we, this is more of a total different business. And he's like, yeah. So we start like, doing another coating. Well, then that's how it kind of trickled down. And now to see where we're at, where we do as many coatings as we do a month, or just cars in general, it was just totally different. You just didn't think about it then. And I guess being younger, I was dumb. I still am. Dumb thinking about what we did. Like, I had no idea what we'd be doing in here. I had no idea. Just all I knew is I had a building, I could do a car here, and hopefully pay the bills.
Yep. And now you do everything.
We do everything now. We do everything.
You're building cars, you're doing suspension, motor work, right?
Yeah, we do everything.
Tint PPF. It's really nothing that you don't do.
The goal is somebody comes in here now, and we have it a lot. Somebody buys a new car, they buy a classic car. They want to do things to it. So from the detail standpoint of the car, or vice versa, they want to put a suspension or lowering kit, whatever, we do it. So, and reason being is just we had a background in it before, and then we kind of, once we built our team up and we kept going with it, it just kind of changed the dynamic to where we were able to do it. But we really focused on our detail side of it for a long time. I mean, we really put in a lot of work into the process of the detail side of it to make sure our correction was right and things like that. And that's where our team started going. We brought in, Ryan and Corey and all these guys, and so it started the effect of building a team. And then that's when we started doing multiple cars a week, and then bringing on more services, the tent, the PPF, and then the lift in the back for our mechanical stuff, and then we have our boat lifts for our marine, and just started that whole realm of. And by this time, I've met a lot of people in the industry, been a part of a lot of different things with guys that I didn't know, met people in the detail industry, traveled, done things, and it's a totally different business. So, but I can truly say at this point that I really enjoy what we do. I do. I love coming here on my days off from the fire station, but then I get to go still do my passion there and enjoy it and be a part of that too. So, and that makes a big difference. So,
yeah, seems like you thrive when you have a team around you.
You do.
In all aspects, right?
A lot.
Have you ever reflected on your life as a whole? Because one thing I really truly appreciate about you, especially during this talk, is that you don't look at, like, you don't allow what's happened in your life to put you down under any means. There's a lot of life lessons that you've taken into play and truly implement them into your life.
Yeah, I don't. I really think, man, to be honest with you, I think I was just too young to realize what I was going through.
Seems like you grew up pretty quick.
Yeah, I was kind of. I don't want to. My thing is, I don't want people to feel bad for me by any means.
No.
It was because now, looking at it, what people go through on a daily basis is so minute to whatever I went through, and I look at it like, man, I didn't really have it that bad compared to other people. I mean, there's kids that we deal with nowadays that through our charity stuff, and man, that's tough. And to see what other people go through, I'm like, quit feeling sorry for yourself is what somebody told me. One of my best friends told me, that when we were training together, that's what he'd always say, quit feeling sorry for yourself and get to work. And that was a big ticket, man, changing that. And that's where transitioning into the role of being in the fire service, being a public servant versus being a business owner didn't matter. It was you're putting yourself forward to serve other people, because at the end of the day, when we roll up on a call, they don't care what my name is, they don't care what I do outside of work, they don't care. They call 911, they want to hear at the end of the day, that's what they don't care. They think we wear capes when we come off that truck, and that's not the case at all. We're just some regular guys that just work, and so that's what they expect. So that just, man, the transition of mindset was really, and I really think at the end of the day, I don't owe it to anybody else, but the man upstairs was the one that you don't even see working in the background to make those things happen. I mean, the people that he involved us with and put us in front of and train, and be a part of and work together with. I mean, that's just really where the mindset, they taught me a quit feeling sorry for yourself mindset, get to work, put yourself before others and make things happen and go to work, and you'll be amazed at what you receive afterwards,
Was that your shift?
I think so.
That moment?
100%.
And when did that happen?
When I first got into the fire service, just training with guys I didn't know, and realizing how much they were so passionate about something. And it showed me a passion about how I was passionate about cars and how I was passionate about different things in my life that I just thought meant a lot to me. But, investing in people really means more to me than anything.
Yeah.
So And that absolutely was where the shift of mindset was of quit being a punk teenager and go to work.
Yeah.
And keep a work ethic that people notice. And the mindset is to come into somewhere that we don't know, wherever we're at, whoever we're around, and be the hardest worker in the room, outwork people that, you know, you want to be a part of with, invite, you know, build your team up, you know, create the same atmosphere for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
And now you can take more on your plate, but you got charity too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a couple years ago when we got, wow.
That's charity there. Yeah.
So a couple years ago, just through cars, actually, just through work, Facebook, social media, some guys down south of Atlanta that I knew kind of through Facebook were really involved in classic cars. My buddy Cale Waddleton and his family. Their son went through a really major process of a heart transplant surgery at just a couple months old.
A couple months old?
Yes. So very, very young, and went through an extensive surgery, heart transplant. We're in the hospital for several months waiting on a heart transplant. And, you know, I saw this on Facebook, wasn't really involved with it at this time, saw their story, you know, really just didn't know them. But indirectly one day, he puts a post out, hey, I need somebody to work on our 69 Camaro. And Cale had progressed. He had started buying cars on the side to pay for his son's medical bills. As you can imagine how much that probably was for a heart transplant and things like that. So insurance only covers so much. So he was actually buying cars on the side, selling them to make extra money to pay his son's medical bills. So kind of how we met. He brings the car up to us, and we start hanging out, and we went to the same car show events together. We went to Rod Run and Pigeon Forge, you know, seen each other at other places, and hung out a couple times, shook hands, and then he started sending us a bunch of work, and we got to know each other really well. And, you know, we were doing quick jobs for him. You know, we were just got to exchanging conversation, talking about things. And then when we got in our shop, we started doing the Shine Showdown here.
And what's that?
So that's our big car show that we do. But when we started it, it wasn't nothing. It was literally just, we opened the bay door. We would stack cars in here and do like a customer appreciation night. And I think like the first night we ever came here and we did it, we all hung out. And I want to say there's maybe 20 cars here. What's in here now, just like people hanging out. But you know, those are people that supported us from day one.
Yep.
So it meant the world to me. But as the year went on, we outgrew just doing a shop day here. We just do it late in the evening and we just do a shop day. So we outgrew it. And when I made our first jump, we got a venue across town, which is the Lake Lanier Rowing venue. It's a big park and it overlooks the lake. And went and approached these people. And I was like, hey, I'd love to host a car show here for the city. And they're like, yeah, absolutely. So they're super open to the whole process. And they're like, yeah, we can do it. You know, obviously it came with a little bit of a fee. So we started raising money, you know, opening up sponsorships and things like that. And at this time is when me and Cale really got involved with each other. And I learned a lot about Caleb's Cause and what they were doing. And that's his nonprofit foundation that we're a part of now as the company and everything, that we all work together continuously. And basically the goal for them was there was a community that rallied around them when their son went through their transplant and had a huge impact on them. And that was where his heart was, is that he wanted to give back to his community and say thank you for, you know, helping my family, but we want to help more families. And man, that just really struck hard to me because, you know, it was to think, it kind of related back to what my small things, I was like, you know, that really strikes. It's not a big foundation. It's a small family that is family oriented, that understands what you know, their love for cars. They understand, you know, they're the same like-minded people. And so that's how we got involved with them. And then we invited them, we met and talked about doing, you know, we want to sponsor Caleb's Cause as our foundation sponsor for the show. Because initially when we first started here at the shop, we had raised a couple $1,000s and we donated to different foundations. And it just, you know, it's almost like you're just throwing them out the windows. Sometimes you never hear anything back about it. You know, you never hear what happened or where it went. And so that's kind of how we came back here and got back together where I really wanted to go with this. And at this time, I had no concept of what really we were going to do. It was just, we're hosting a car show. We're raising funds to sponsor Caleb's Cause. This all goes to help a sick, hand-picked family in need. A sick child usually is what we try to do. It has to be a kid. You know, some people kind of look at it a little differently, but we hand-pick them. And I hate to put it this way, but it's because, you know, we look at what is a family really going through. There's a difference in going to one doctor's appointment versus people have years of back-owed medical bills. And when you can make a small impact on something like that, that's where we really want to touch it. So moving forward, our car show comes about. And I had never put together an event like this, and I had a great amount of help friends from the fire department that were doing videography and, you know, guys that were helping us park cars and things like that to really get this event out there. And man, the day of our event, it's dead August. You know, we get there the night before. We camped out the night before, so it's obviously a huge team building thing for us. We camp out. We get a bunch of cars over there the night before. We hang out and party, and then the next day, sunrise, everybody's up, setting stuff up, getting ready to go. And so I didn't know what kind of crowd we were expecting. So obviously we're looking at our like social media platform, what we're seeing. You know, we're thinking.
Are you marketing this at all?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, going all over town.
Yeah, so I'm handing out flyers downtown. You know, we're riding around. People are we're telling everybody about it. We're showing things and.
And you already had a family chosen.
Yes. Okay. So this is where we handpicked a family out of Atlanta here, and their daughter actually was Millie, and she was going through several really heavy cancer treatments.
How old is she?
She was 3 and 4 at the time we were involved with her. So, I mean, you can imagine just a 3-year-old girl. But, man, when I mean, like, we met her for the first time, like, it was so emotional to see how pure this little girl was. Yeah. And she didn't understand a thing that was going on, but she was so freaking happy. Like, man, it really takes you back. Because you're just like, you're sitting here and you're like, here I am feeling sorry for myself because I've got a stressful day, and this little girl's going to stage 4 cancer treatments daily and in and out of the hospital, and it's like.
Is she still happy?
I mean,
still a kid.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
So that's how we picked her, and you know, we rallied together, we got everybody picked, and this is the day of the event, and this is really started touching things. So we have obviously the dragsters, we've got all these cars out there, and then we knew Millie was coming, but we kind of had to set up a special time for her to be there so we could do the awards and give things in honor of her. And she was there, and so she rolls up. We get her right to the front row so she can walk around. Obviously, this is when COVID first started too, so this was like a big deal for her to be able to come out. And relating back to the event day. So keep in mind, like, the event is on August 28th at this time, and it's dead August. Like I said, it's hot. And the show started we did it 2 to like 6 o'clock or something like that. At 12 o'clock, 2 hours before the show, the parking lot was so full, we couldn't even get another car in there. It was overflowing, like it was backed up all the way through town, and people were calling, and they're like calling the police department. They're like, yo, there's cars all the way through town. Like there's.
Oh, you didn't get a pass by the police?
No, we had.
I've been there, done that.
Yeah, we had some police officers there representing their car, but there was nobody directing traffic. We ended up getting some repercussions for that, because some of our buddies were out there hanging out directing traffic, you know, getting people to do burnouts and stuff. So
that's awesome.
So we got in a little trouble, but
it's
okay.
Event.
Yeah, it's okay. They were cool with it afterwards. They're like, just next year we gotta have some cops out there. So, anyways, that day, man, we were just like, it was overwhelming. So we were so stressed. We're like, we're running all over the place. We got vendors pulled up. We've got people all over the place. People are wanting food, and luckily the event went really well. We had enough space, but it was just so packed. You could not get another car there. We were turning people away, letting them park down the road and walk up. Long story short, that day comes in, we're doing this whole thing, and Millie was there, and I just never forget it. She got out of the car, and once again, she was so pure and happy. She's running up and down the thing. She's climbing in and out of the dragster. She's never been in a race car before. She walked right up that thing and threw her leg over and climbed inside of it like she'd been driving her whole life.
Cool.
And it was just like, it was so touching, man, because it's just, you see this motorsports community, and for people to see how pure she was and how pure the family was of receiving something, they didn't even know what kind of monetary donation they were about to get. They just knew that we were putting on they just thought we were going to do a little car show. They thought there was maybe going to be 50 cars there or something, and they showed up, and there's over 300 something cars. There's thousands of people out there walking around, and we just packed out this venue. And
how are you taking donations?
So basically, car entry fees.
Okay.
$20 a car, and then we had raffles. We had raffle items. We gave away a golf cart. We had a motor that we gave away. You know, just all kind of motorsport stuff. We had wheels and tires and just anything you could think of. We had a gooseneck trailer full of just stuff like that we just raffled.
Cool.
And that was something where Kale and them were really big on. They were able to do that. That's kind of where we got a lot of the ideas from. They had done that for a couple shows, and they had really good outcomes. And seeing a sick family or a sick child in need is really where people open up their hearts and give, because they just want to be involved in something that's not just to some big corporation. It's not just going to some company that's going to pad their pocket. They just knew that we were a bunch of car guys putting together an event for a family.
Yep.
And that's still our motto this day is, we don't take a dime from these shows. We put everything back into it to the family. Every bit of it goes back to them. So we have people, we still have people to this day that call randomly throughout the year. They're like, hey, next show, put me down. I want to be a part of it. And, people give, and that's really the only reason we're able to do these shows is we're able to jump on board and do these things and get them involved with things. So, anyways, that day, award time, and I didn't know a count. So my wife's working, and we're going down the road, and we're doing things, and the whole event's going, and it's event time, and awards are coming up. So we finally get everybody up there around the stage, and people are checking out what we got going on. We're doing our awards, and then finally comes tally time for money. And I told her, my wife was actually like, she wanted to kill me. So, like, at this time,
there's no money machine counting.
No. So I forgot to mention this. We had previously gotten engaged. So 2 weeks before our show, we had a wedding afterwards. So my wife planned a wedding along with a huge car show that we didn't know what was going to happen. So she was ready to kill me at this point. No, I'm just kidding.
Stay together.
Yeah, no, she was cool with it. She kills it. So when she came and I'm standing there, I'm like, did you get a count of money? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, what is it? And she's like, it's like $33,000. And I was like,
whoa.
And I'm like, I took my phone, I was like, what? And she's like, it's $33,000. Like, there's no way. And she's like, I swear. So at that time, I was just kind of like emotionally distraught for a second, because I'm just like, I've never, coming from nothing, building a business of no money in the bank, and understanding how many people gave out of their goodness of their hearts to create something that big and give that kind of monetary donation. Because at that point in time is when I realized that we're not giving this family $2,500 to pay one medical bill. We're giving this family a chance to get through several months of time, to give them maybe just a little bit of a break, pay their house note, do something. And man, it just took me away. It just, that right there, man, it just ignited another fire into what we were doing. And so the crowd obviously is really hyped up about this. We tell them what kind of money we raised. Family's still there. They were super cool about it. And following the show, I'd say about a year, we kept in touch with the family, and we didn't realize, we just kind of check in with them. We try not to be a burden to them. We're just like, hey, can we help you with anything? What else can we do for you? And we received a random text one morning that Millie had passed away, and she had been going through extensive treatments, but it just kind of took us all off guard because she was so pure the day of, and when you saw her smile and you saw how much she was enjoying being outside of that hospital, not in a hospital bed, just out here enjoying, and here we are complaining because we had a car breakdown, and I'm just like, man, it just took me back. So that just started the whole mindset of we're gonna continue to do this. We're gonna make it big. We're gonna continue to treat families as they should be treated, and let them know that we're just gonna spread love and invest in people. And that's where we went with it. So continuing on, every year we do this car show, and this past year we sponsored another family. Same thing, family going through extensive medical treatments with 3 kids, and we try to meet with the
all
family.
All 3 of their kids are going through
medical?
medical?
They were all premature, and that really meant a lot to me because I didn't know what I was actually going through.
So triplets?
Yes. So they're all like 24-weekers, so they spent several months in the NICU. Little did I know how much the NICU was going to affect my life, and so we asked them what their need was, and their need was, they were very hesitant to ask because they didn't know what we were capable of.
Sure.
But they needed a mode of transportation. They were borrowing one of the grandparents' vans. They had a vehicle, but it was very broken down, a couple 100,000 miles, constantly dumping money into it, and they were like, we need a van. We can't even go to they're driving to Texas on a hopes and dreams of getting there because their vans broke down so much. They're going to Texas for treatment for their kids, for therapy to let the kids walk and things like that. So this past year, 21, was the Mighty 3, and that was our goal this year, was we raised enough money to buy them a van. So we were able to go buy them a brand new van, raised over $40-something thousand for them, went and bought them a van, and now they're able to kind of, same thing, we kind of just keep in touch with them and make sure they're okay and if we can help them anyway. But that's where our charity mindset is, and it's not even a...
Are the kids all right, by the way?
Yeah, the kids are still doing good.
Out of the NICU now?
Yeah. They came out. They're living life as far as they're going through their treatments of like rehab and physical therapy of walking and sensory things like that, trying to make sure that because a couple of them had some issues with learning how to walk or, vision stuff or, just a bunch of different... There was a mixture of things. There was just a long list of stuff for them that opposed it. Following that show, at this time, once again, a year later, me and my wife had gotten married. We'd been married for 2 years, and then COVID had happened, so we're all going through that whole mess. And then we're blessed enough to become pregnant. So my wife goes through pregnancy, has a great pregnancy, no issues, and this is after we had, already been through the family things with the other people. And, this is where it came into my time, and the guys are running the shop, things are going good, business is really good, we're still flowing, and I don't know, I got really scared about things. I just had, I was scared to bring somebody else into this life, because I'm like, man, I don't know if I can handle what these families have been through, and if that happens to me, which it still very well could, but I just don't know if I can handle it. And so it was kind of crazy. But long story short, my son gets here, and the week before my son got here, my wife all of a sudden has like crazy hypertension and like stroke level blood pressure levels, and they're like, yeah, you can't.
How far into the pregnancy?
This is like 9 months almost, and we're 8 months, because we were 4 weeks early when they finally decided to induce her. So I'm here one day, I go home, and Lucy calls me, and she's like, hey, we're gonna go to the doctor. I'm not feeling good or whatever. So we go down there, and they're like, yeah, you're not going home. You're going to you're going to the hospital. Like, we can't let you go home like this. She had been on like bed rest for like 2 weeks with her legs up, and my wife's tiny. And I mean, she was just like, her legs are swollen up, and they're like, you need to stay off your feet. She's like, I am off my feet, So little did I know, once again, we're just business mindset. We're running, we're doing things. And I guess this is where God is trying to tell me now to put the reins back a little bit, pay attention to family and what's going on. So we go in and stayed there like 7 days for just before he even got here, because they had her on bed rest, and they're trying to make sure that he's coming out okay and things are looking good. Well, long story short, he comes out, everything was good, but I'll never forget it. Like, he couldn't really breathe. They were like sitting there, and he's just grunting, and I'm like, this sounds weird, and we're like obviously having our emotional moment. Our son just got here finally after like 7 days looking out the same hospital window. Wife's crying, everything's just beautiful. So then the nurse is like, NICU, once again, I've heard these terms, and I just never, like, even with all the charity stuff we've been a part of, I just never put it into play of like what these families really go through. And they're like, oh yeah, the NICU nurse is here, and they're going to look at him. Okay, so she's checking him out, and she's like, I'm going to run him downstairs. And I'm like, okay, I'm thinking this is normal operation. So I'm leaving my wife, she just had a child, and I'm thinking, this is normal. So I go down the hallway with my newborn son, and I'm like, crying, happy tears, he's here. Go downstairs to this transition clinic, what they call it, and they're doing things. They put him on some oxygen and stuff. They're like, we're just going to clear his lungs up, and keep, once again, I'm just oblivious to what's going on.
Were they really calm during that?
They were super calm.
Yeah.
So once again, being in the fire service, medically, I kind of understood what they were doing, but I didn't think nothing of it because I thought it was a normal operation.
Sure.
First child. So this time she says, we're going to go downstairs and do some things, and then we'll come back and get you. So just go back to your wife's room. I'm like, okay. Go back, and she's like, where's he at? And they're like, they took him downstairs, Well, didn't know what was going on. So come to find out, my son was immediately rushed to the NICU for not being able to breathe proficiently, had fluid on his lungs, and just progressively was declining very quickly. And once again, I didn't know this at the time. So then they transitioned us out of their labor room. We go to another room. I'm unpacking bags, trying to get all our stuff together, going down through this thing.
Was this because he was premature, too?
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
So he came 4 weeks early, and so little did I know, they always said it. They were like, oh, it's great, perfect delivery, no big deal. So then this is when I first got inducted to the NICU, and the nurse actually came upstairs, and she was like, oh, we actually took your son to the NICU, and this is when they started telling us what was going on. I'm like, well, that's weird, he was just fine in there, So we go downstairs for the first time, and I'll never forget it, man. I walked in, my son's in this small, little incubator looking thing, and sitting there, and he's just like, it just feels like it's lifeless, man. I'm staring at my son, and I'm like, I just immediately start crying, I'm just like, what is going on? My life was just the happiest time of my life, and now I'm looking at my son, and I'm like, his O2 saturation's like declining, and the buzzers are going off, like, and I know what these monitors mean, because from being, going in and out of the hospital, I know what these mean, and I'm like, the heck is going on, and so it just really took me back for a second. And standing there, same thing, and they've got him on oxygen, and then the next thing I know, the next 24 hours it progresses worse. They do the next thing. They're like, we're gonna intubate your son. And this time it was really weird, because they said, you guys are actually discharged, but we're intubating your son, and he has to stay here. And man, it was just, for that 48 hours of being there, that just, I finally started putting things together of like, this is how these families that we deal with feel 24/7. And right then and there, I just was like, man, this ain't it. This is wild. And
How long was he in there for?
so he ended up staying there another 7 days. So he's in there
9 days, I guess.
Yeah, so totally he's in there about we were at the hospital about 9 or 10 days. And,
Jeez.
when he actually got intubated, looking back on it now, the operations that they were doing was pretty standard for them. But I guess it was just a mindset check for me.
So he had to be operated on?
Basically, they just intubated him. So they had a tube in his throat. They're breathing for him. He's on a ventilator. And I'll never forget, I told the nurse, I'm like, I don't want to be rude, but like my thought process is you're about to stick something in my son's throat to let him breathe. And if he gets on that ventilator and just gives up, what do you do? And I said, I said, you may find this harsh. I said, but I don't want my son to give up. I said, I want him to breathe. And she's like, I understand. And it was just kind of subtle like that. But come to find out, it was one of the best things. And this is really where I kind of, because I think everyday operations, I think about everything we do here. I think about the people that I deal with, people that I meet that I don't know. And I think just about how much I go through life, and we all forget how blessed we really are at the end of the day. And sitting there thinking about where we were at in my time, where I'm at with my faith. And of course, like I'm sitting there, and while he's in the hospital, I would go sit with him. My wife wasn't able to come down there because she was still being monitored for her issues. And I'd go sit with him, and I'd just sit there, man, and I just think about the future and pray and just let my son make it out of here, And I'll never forget, she told me the step process, the hallway down there. And keep in mind, I've never been in the NICU. And she's like, yeah, if you're on this end of the hallway, it's not so bad. You get down this end, it gets a little worse. And then you get down here, and they're really heavily monitored. Well, we're right here. We're at the end of the line here. So just because of what they were doing to him and stuff. So I'll never forget, I had been just sitting there praying, and just talking about things, just talking to family, letting them know what was going on. And that we finally went home. We did, my wife and I, and then we would go back, we would go get dinner, and then we'd go sit with him till about midnight, and we'd feed him and change his diaper and things like that while he was still tubed and, things, and just spend time with him. And I'll never forget, the nurse, the doctor, and everything was there, and they're like, it's funny, a lot of times we'll intubate these kids, and when they're ready, they'll pull their own tube out. And I was like, crazy. I was like, what? I was like, no way. And she's like, yeah, it's really common. She's like, well, and then the doctor was like, well, it's kind of common. We don't see it too often. And it was like contraindicating themselves. I'm like, whatever. At this point, I didn't even believe it was going to happen. And we just didn't think nothing of it. Just kind of went over our head. Well, we leave, and it's like 12 o'clock, and we're on the way home, and I get a phone call. My wife's like freaking out. She's like, pull over. So we pull over, and it's the hospital. And we're like, hello? And they're like, hey, we just want to let you know. And I'm thinking like the worst had just happened. We just left our son. I'm thinking the worst just happened. Like something really bad just happened. Because why are they calling at 12:30? And they're like, hey.
12:30 at night or during the day?
12:30 at night.
Okay.
And they're like, we just want to let you know your son just pulled his tube out right after y'all left. And I'm like, what?
Oh
like, I'm taking pictures of him every day because every day he was changing.
Sure.
He had different, things going on. He had different medication, different IVs, and I was just taking pictures of him daily. And the day that we were there, that I had just taken the most recent picture of him, was his worst day. He was still on the ventilator. They were still breathing for him. And then later that night, pulls his own tube out, and he breathes perfectly. And they were talking about the chances of how when they take him off a tube, how sometimes they either decline again or they do very well. So his chances were just really weird. And I mean, dude came out and pulled his own tube out and started breathing, Wow. And so, that was just like, man, you just talk about sitting there on the side of the road for a second, and me and my wife just had a moment where we're crying, we're holding each other's hands, and we're just like, just thinking about how long we were in there, and just like those days are so long. And once again, I'm just reverting back to about how much it changed my life, because all I could think about is these families that we had dealt with and what we were going through. I was like, and even afterwards, talking to people that had been in the NICU and talking about how they were there for 6 months and 3 months and weeks on end, and just different therapies. And I was just like, once again, my story was minute to compare what you guys went through.
Yep.
So it just really ignited a fire into me for being really focused on faith, family, and business, and being invested in what we're doing. And at the end of the day, that's really where we're at now. And I just try to take that mindset of where we've been, involving our family life, involving our guys, our teams, family life, making sure that their family's taken care of. Like at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. People really, truly don't understand when they support a small business that you're not pouring into somebody. You're putting food on the table for families. And I just can't stress it enough, man. It's just, I try to tell our guys, no matter what the situation is that comes in, whether the customer is super pissed off about what happened or if we messed up, that we still try to make this experience good for them. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're here. Unfortunately, we work on a lot of higher end vehicles, and we, sometimes things happen. So, being responsible for our actions and being a part of something that's greater, and really pushing out the message of that we're more than just a company. Like, we really, at the end of the day, I could care less if we do another car, but the team of people that we have around us is where we strive.
Yep.
And that's it at the end of the day.
Well, I gotta tell you, man, you've been through a lot in your life, a lot that you don't deserve, but your message and how you handle things is beyond powerful.
Well,
and I appreciate you for that.
Yeah,
because you take
thank
everything,
y'all.
you see the light through it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people can't see that, and honestly, this message is
Yeah.
stronger than
Yeah.
you can believe.
I just think it's crazy, man, because I just don't, and that's just going back to I don't want people to feel sorry for me personally. I just wish we could spread the love and spread the knowledge of what really people go through on a daily basis. You never know what these people are going through. It could be having the worst day of their life, man. You walk by them and
You give them a smile or a hug.
yeah, and that's
Yep.
it. And it's just, in today's world we're at with everything going on, and it's just like there's nothing more powerful than investing in somebody that you possibly believe in, or donating a little bit of time to them to invest in maybe something in their future. And we have a lot of guys that are younger that are coming in here that want to learn, and they learn a lot of different things. They're learning how to detail cars, and I'm like, you guys laugh now, but one day you could look down the road 10 years and remember this when maybe you start your own company.
Yep.
And that's really what it's about for us, is we just want to invest in the future and be here. And at the end of the day, I told Michael this. I said, man, if we could, as long as we're here working with our hands, I'm happy.
Yep.
The money is not a thing to me. It's more of and just like we talked about, I don't take a paycheck from here.
Yep.
I do that on purpose. I invest every dollar that we ever make back to this, and I put it back into our company to invest for the guys and make sure that they're taken care of, and that there's food on the table for them.
It's funny. I did the same thing when starting the detailing company.
Yeah.
Started with $1,000.
Yeah.
Didn't take a paycheck till I had to.
Yeah.
When I quit the other job, because I left my financial
Yeah.
freedom for nothing.
Yeah.
And then I finally had to. But it was the first 3 years. It was just let the business do itself.
Yeah.
Well, I love seeing you having your son now too, and legacy. I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Means a lot to you. I mean, having a car that your grandpa drove
Yeah,
to
yeah.
a truck that your dad had to now.
Yeah.
Having the legacy of your son there. So, what is your legacy that you want to leave behind?
Man, really, I want to be with a team of people. I want people to recognize what we're doing as far as our atmosphere of people creating a healthy culture and investing in more than just what the car lies. But I want to be able to leave here one day and know that my dad and my son is proud of his dad, that he felt like I was the right person for him as a father, and did things that maybe I thought was right. And I know I'm going to mess up like I already have, but I just want him to remember that his dad was cool, because we got to work on cars all the time, and like my dad did. He let me drive cars and trucks and ride four-wheelers, and I want that same effect. But I also want to leave him something that maybe long-term goal, that hopefully we're in this business for 30, 40 something years, and that people remember my son as, oh, your dad was the one that built my car 30 years ago,
Yeah.
or, your dad used to detail my car or something, years and years ago. And that's what my grandpa did, believe it or not. He owned a detail and kind of a wholesale, dealer lot down in Florida. And that's what he did. He detailed cars, and he'd clean them up and sell them. And little did I know that. But, it just meant the world to me, because in his later years, when he recently passed away, we talked about it, man. He talked about what he did, and it's pretty cool. I have his old polisher upstairs with his old shirt. It says Mr. Z's on it, and
That's cool.
that was cleaning company. So it's old school polisher. It's cool. So
I still got my dad's polisher.
Yeah.
Same thing. Old Porter cable.
yeah,
Yep.
so that's what it was, man. It's
Yep.
awesome. It's sitting up there, but I'm hoping to, with our second location and stuff, I'm gonna really dress up our showroom and stuff to make it more like an environment when people walk in, that they feel like it's a cool atmosphere to be a part of, and have some old school vintage stuff that I'm really about purity and being a part of something that's just so real.
Yeah.
And to me, I feel like the old, your older class people that's been around these old cars for a long time, there's something to take from them guys. And every chance I get to sit and talk on a front porch with an old person that's been around the car industry for 30-something years, I try to take the opportunity and talk to them, because those are the guys that have seen the ups and downs and tell you what you're missing or what you're not missing or what you're about. And I just hope that the older generation can look back on me at my younger age and say, he was the same person at 26 years old as he is at 56 years old.
Yep.
And I try to be constant. I don't ever want to change that. I want to keep the same positive mindset of being a part of something greater than just a company, just making money.
Well, I know one question they're going to ask is a question I have is how do you manage everything with a work-life balance of having the fire company, being a father, running a massive business?
Just the, I don't have a definite answer on what I do that was different. But I try to take into account that, when I met my wife and we got together, and taking into the account that what family time meant to me, and now with my son being here, how family is priority. And there's days that we mess up and that we work late and we get done and it didn't go on schedule. But, not to go back to just what Urable is, but Urable allows me to be able to be at the house if I need to work off of. But, that's just going back to the work-based life balance is the mindset, I think, is a huge thing. Just there's a lot of people that want to get in this industry. They think because that we work on nice cars that we're just washing cars and that's all it is. And they don't understand how much work goes into it or what we're doing. So, if you think that you're going to walk into this industry and put a sign on a door and make it happen, it's not that easy. There is those long days and years, and we still have those days. But my goal now is to make it a priority to our customers that, we're going to work as hard as we can to get your car done efficiently on time. But the only thing that we ever ask for is more time because we respect our time as well.
Yeah.
And that's our saying to everybody that comes in here and be like, we don't ask for, even if it takes me more time, sometimes we eat the cost on things to give the product that it needs to be. But at the end of the day, I want them to understand that, just like we talked about the experience, like you guys at your shop, the experience of when they come in here that they know Ryan, Corey, Robert, we all worked on your car, we hand touched it, and we can tell you what's wrong with it or what happened or what the good things are about it, make the experience to where they understand what we're about and the passion that goes into it here.
Well, AJ, I gotta say you're a real dude, man. Yeah, I appreciate who you are, and everything you've gone through in life. It's just awesome to call you a friend. It's an honor to call you a friend, and I appreciate you opening up and being the guy you are today.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So I'm excited for your future. I'm
Thanks,
excited
man.
not just follow it, but to be part of it and support all the future charity runs that you do.
Well, hopefully you guys can come down.
Oh, we're coming down. Michael, can we come? Yeah, we're coming down. R8's coming, everybody.
Yeah.
Another couple thousand miles.
That's all right.
Well, I just want to say thank you to you and your whole team here for opening up and allowing us into your lives for a couple days and sharing your whole story.
Thank you.
It's awesome. Can't wait to see what next truck you buy.
I think we have a deal to work out when we leave here.
I think we do too. I think the OBS is coming home with me. Well, I want to thank you. Your whole shop, all your guys here. Thank you, Michael, Chris, Kyle, everybody over at Urable. Thanks, Cetoscope, for putting this together too.
Yeah.
Make sure you go online, sign up for the free 30-day trial. Like, subscribe, share all these videos that you see. It makes all the cool stories like AJ's here spread around the world. So thank you so much. And as always, guys, keep shining.
It's awesome. Thanks, bro.
You got it.